Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 4 Steps to Becoming a High-Performance Procurement Organization. My name is Doug Weinrich, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Our speaker today is Mark Brousseau, president of Brousseau & Associates. Over the past 26 years, Mark has established himself as a thought leader on accounts payables, accounts receivable, payments, and document automation, a popular speaker at industry conferences and on webinars and podcasts. Brousseau advises prominent end users and solutions and service providers on how to use automation to improve document and payment-driven business processes. Brousseau has chaired numerous educational conferences and has served on several industry committees and boards. He resides in the beautiful city of Philadelphia with his wife and 3 sons. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you all for joining us today. So the topic of today's webinar is how to become a high-performance procurement organization. We're going to talk about where things stand with procurement. We're going to provide you with some strategies for moving up the procurement maturity curve, and we'll talk about the role of automation in helping you achieve high-performance results. Before we do all that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the sponsor of today's webinar, CoreCentric. CoreCentric offers market-leading solutions for source-to-pay, order-to-cash, and fleet solutions. Its technology helps mid-market to Fortune 1000 businesses reduce costs and improve working capital. And it does that through a mix of payments, software, and advisory services that span the gamut of source-to-pay function. These are just some of the categories that CoreCentric has served over the past 30 years, and the results it has achieved for its clients are impressive. I encourage you to learn more about CoreCentric by visiting them online at corecentric.com. Any way you slice it, procurement matters more in times like these. Efficient procurement processes, well, they free up cash for activities that contribute to the bottom line. They help keep supply chains moving even when operations are disrupted, and transparent procurement processes provide senior management with visibility into spending as they try to guide our businesses through this economic downturn. Now, no matter where you are today in the procurement life cycle, the role of procurement in the organization is important, and it's going to change over time. And there's really 4 primary factors that define the role of your procurement or role of your procurement function within your organization. The first, of course, is its vision. First, we all know that procurement might face lots of resistance if a lot of your purchasers were used to doing things on their own. But as the function matures and it defines its vision for what it wants to achieve, well, it starts to become a trusted advisor. The second factor in procurement's role in the organization is its interaction with internal and external stakeholders. Procurement could find itself recognized either as a valuable ally or dismissed as a low-value nuisance, depending on where you are on the maturity curve. The third factor defining procurement's role in the organization is its perception. If stakeholders, and suppliers, and leadership, well, if they don't perceive procurement as a value-added asset, procurement's going to find it awfully hard to break through and become that trusted provider that it wants to be. And the fourth factor in procurement's role in the organization is its function, how it affects the purchasing and sourcing cycles. No matter where procurement stands and its role in the organization, it's probably going to face some similar challenges. Things like lean resources, subject matter expertise gaps, lots and lots of complexity, and reduced savings potential over time as it becomes most effective. And it's for these reasons that procurement must become more mature. Many procurement organizations are still mired in what I would describe as a low-value past. And this chart really illustrates the procurement maturity curve that I'm describing. Most organizations, well, you start out as a laggard procurement function. You're making purchases reactively on an as-needed basis, and you're really adding little in the way of strategic value. Then typically you become a traditional function where you do things a little differently than your purely tactical peers. They proactively look into the market, make purchasing decisions with more than sticker price in mind. Next, you become an augmented stage where you're exerting control and driving decision making long after purchases are made. There's some expertise and strategic know-how here in dictating how and why the company should make some of its buying decisions. But the brass ring, the thing we're all striving for, is to become a world-class function. These are the unicorns. These are the rare groups that occupy an utterly essential role within the organization. These are the functions that have strong, consistent identity and a team of flexible resources that make them indispensable to every part of the supply chain. This is what you want to achieve. So when you look at this chart, you might be wondering to yourself, so where do I stand today? Where does my procurement function sit? And you might be starting to wonder, what's holding me back from becoming that world-class organization that Mark is describing? Well, there's 4 stages to becoming a high-performance procurement organization. And if you follow the 4 steps I'm about to describe, I assure you, you will achieve world-class result. The first stage to evolving into a world-class procurement function is achieving savings. In uncertain economic times, businesses must more carefully manage their money to, of course, avoid potential cash flow disruption. And we know the CPOs are no strangers to the pressures of reducing costs through automation or process improvement or efficiency gains. But the enterprise needs more from procurement in times like these. Let's face it, helping the business survive isn't going to cut it. What the C-suite wants from procurement is for them to think beyond operational improvements and become a partner in developing strategies that help the business grow. Efficient and effective operations, in my opinion, they're the table stakes for procurement in this post-pandemic economy that we're moving into. What you want to do is build a scalable, value-driven organization. And to do that, it's going to require procurement to leverage the vast amount of data that flows through its department. You're also going to want to identify opportunities to create top-line value, to streamline compliance, mitigate risk, facilitate collaboration. Whether the savings are uncovered by procurement, are identified, negotiated, realized, these are going to have a big impact on our business. How? Well, finance has a stronger profit and loss sheet to work with. Operations can avoid unnecessary costs. And the C-suite is going to be better positioned to seize market opportunities. Over time, procurement departments can apply these types of cost savings to new categories of spend. So none of this is to suggest that prioritizing cost savings must be a race to the bottom, where businesses are compromising quality or functionality to shave off a few pennies. With the right tools, procurement can deliver more than cost savings. We're talking things like supply chain flexibility and supplier network involvement and creative sourcing strategies. Just consider what happens when procurement digs deep into the details of spend and supplier profiles. With these insights, now procurement can rationalize supplier relationships, and that's going to give you better negotiating power. So what you want to do is you want to use savings as a lever to achieving greater results, not just to squeeze your suppliers. And that brings us to the second stage of becoming a world-class procurement organization: compliance, sustaining savings gains, and getting spend under management. That's going to create a reliance on everyone doing the right thing. I'm doing my air quotes. You can't see that. This is especially true with decentralized buying. And that's where compliance comes in. Many organizations, they try to control spending with strict rules. But that's all wrong. That sends mixed messages to buyers. Do we trust them to make good decisions or not? What's more, when we have a lack of understanding, that's when we're most likely to make wrong purchase decisions, to go off contract or make non-compliant purchases. It's typically not malicious intent. And this, my friends, is why it's important for procurement departments to have what I would call a single source of truth. You want one place where everyone can see supplier information, negotiation details, contract terms, centralized spend visibility. And that's going to provide a controlled framework for these compliant purchases. Everyone's going to be in the know. Everyone's going to know how purchasing ought to work. And automation is key here. When you have electronic procurement solutions, now you're going to be able to facilitate standardized requisition, purchasing, and approval processes. No more of this ad hoc purchasing. You're going to remove reasons for users to stray, and you're going to do this by putting tools and information at their fingertips. You're also going to eliminate the circumstances under which non-compliant purchases might be made. You're going to make compliant purchasing easy, and you're going to make it intuitive. And one way to ensure that compliance is in place is to better align the organization with your procurement procedures. 49% of CPOs surveyed by Ardent Partners identified improving internal collaboration and communication as a top agenda item. They know that they've got to get everyone on the same page. Procurement should be open to anything it can learn through non-compliance. So we want to use them as learning lessons. We want to understand, why is it that that person wasn't on the same page as the rest of us? Chronic compliant challenges, well, they could indicate that something is wrong with your procurement process. I know. Contracted or approved suppliers, or maybe even both. When you resolve these problems, it's going to help ensure purchasing compliance, and it's going to help and strengthen your relationship with your buyers. But ensuring compliance also requires procurement to see the forest and the trees. The source to pay process is often looked at from a high level perspective, right? A continuum of processes. But it's also important to invest in connections between these various processes in the overall continuum to establish holistic visibility. Visibility is really what we're after here. For instance, when we bridge the gap between spend data and contracts, it's going to make it easier for procurement to monitor where supplier and category details don't match the contracts we've got in place. And that's going to help you not just in one of these areas, it's going to help you across all of these areas. And over time, that's going to move you closer to becoming a world-class procurement organization. Managing risk, that's the third stage of the procurement maturity curve. For many procurement leaders, the disruption caused by the pandemic only reaffirmed the need to adopt strategies to mitigate risks of all kinds. And let's face it, supply risk is a massive blind spot for most companies. In fact, only 9% of procurement teams are focused on improving their supply risk management capabilities. Only 20% have a comprehensive supply risk program targeting strategic suppliers. And we know that global supply chains are unwieldy, and that complexity makes it exponentially harder to address unforeseen events. In other words, everything that's happened over the past 14 months. Making matters worse, some risks are embedded in multiple layers deep down in our supply chain. And this makes it really hard to see them, much less manage them. So procurement needs to bring three things to light in each category of spend we manage to ensure that we're mitigating our risks. The first, we need to understand what are the relevant risks. What is each supplier doing to manage these risks today? And what should we be doing independently of our suppliers to manage these risks? These questions may influence the suppliers that you do business with. And if a more expensive supplier takes meaningful risk mitigation strategies that maybe the lower price supplier doesn't, and the category justifies such an investment, the decision-making process might need to be reweighted. We might want to do business with that supplier even if their price is a little higher. Many businesses are integrating risk management from the outset of the sourcing process, and they're starting to include a weighted factor in the award process so that contractual agreements aren't tied to just pricing alone. In other words, they're starting to consider risk as part of their decision-making process. And what they're doing in the process is they're making themselves more resilient. Risk management shouldn't be seen as something separate from other spend management responsibilities. This really goes back to the need for visibility through systems and data integration, what I spoke about a few moments ago. Big data is one way that procurement teams are proactively managing supply chain risks and better preparing their network for external disruptions. The final stage of progressing from meeting the fundamental needs of a procurement function to delivering the optimal results is to deliver shared value. Collaboration increases the potential for value creation. When you have effective collaboration, that enables procurement to create value above and beyond the financial figure. Collaboration is a really big step toward achieving alignment with enterprise objectives to becoming, a world-class organization. It's also critical to adapting processes and information availability for your real-time business needs. And as we start to position our businesses for the recovery that we hope is just ahead, it's going to be critical that we have agility. And this is exactly what delivering shared value does. For procurement leaders, the possibility of building on savings through compliance and risk and collaboration, this represents an enormous opportunity for us. But achieving procurement maturity is also going to require a big change in the way things get done. And that is where automation comes in. Procurement, let's face it, hasn't always been an early adopter of technology, but technology is going to be critical to helping us bring more value to the organization. It's going to accelerate our move toward becoming a world-class, high-performance procurement organization. Increased visibility and control over products, services, and suppliers and markets. That leads to more effective strategies. That leads to more complex approaches to how we manage our purchasing. In other words, greater maturity in procurement. P2P solutions with integrated functionalities such as embedded analytics and contract management, that really enables our procurement function to grow beyond basic approaches to just trimming costs. But the digital divide between top performers and laggards, it's still substantial. So if you're not high enough on the procurement maturity curve, chances are your lack of automation is probably to blame. And one way that that'll show up is in the way that you're using your data. Best-in-class procurement teams leverage their data to make better informed decisions about things like sourcing and suppliers and contracts and purchasing and payments and everything else. Data helps procurement optimize its spend. It helps ensure compliance. It helps mitigate risks, all the things that we're after. CPOs recognize the potential of unlocking procurement data. 40% of CPOs believe that better data visibility from enhanced analytics is what they need to get procurement to the next level. And when you have visibility into category expenses and other procurement data, this is what empowers us as CPOs and procurement leaders. Now we can understand our supplier relationships. We can rationalize demand. We can benchmark. We can leverage volume. We can match pricing models to supplier cost models. We can also get an objective view of the competitive landscape. When you've got enhanced analytic capabilities, now you can do more than just generate internal savings. You can more tightly manage your spending. The message we want to leave you with today is that with the right automation, procurement can move up the maturity curve and help propel the business and positively impact the bottom line. That's what's on my mind. Now we want to find out what's on your mind. We're entering the Q&A portion of this webinar. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered, or if you've thought of another question, go ahead and use the Q&A tool on your screen to submit them to me electronically. Our first question from an attendee, they want to know, how do we sell senior management on the idea of procurement automation? This is a key question now. Some senior managers might be tempted to say they want to hoard cash. This is the time to invest in working capital, not in automation. But the reality is that with procurement automation, senior management can have their cake and they can eat it too. They can get some immediate quick wins in terms of spend management and reducing their operations costs, while also able to achieve improvements in their cash flow management. The visibility provided by source to pay and P2P solutions will help senior managers be able to optimize their working capital. So what you want to do when you're proposing P2P automation to senior management is avoid the temptation to tell them everything that automation will do for you as a procurement head. This is where a lot of business cases go wrong. We focus just on the departmental benefits. Put it in terms that senior management cares about. And what is it senior management is focused on? Well, the C-suite today is focused on 4 things. 1, cash flow analysis. 2, liquidity management. 3, risk mitigation. And 4, reducing costs. So when you frame your business case in these terms and you include hard dollar savings, soft dollar savings, and risk avoidance, I'm sure you'll find a receptive audience. Another attendee wants to know, what are some key attributes to look for in a high performance procure to pay solution? Great question. Well, it all starts with ensuring, first and foremost, that the solution has the features and functionality you need for your current points of pain. Don't fall into the trap of buying a solution based on what a supplier, a technology provider, believes is most important for you. Take the time to assess your current operations, to speak with stakeholders about what they perceive are the points of pain and what are their objectives. Poll your frontline staff on what it is that holds your supply chain down. And then I want you to create a matrix of those features and functionality. And when you speak to suppliers, you score each one based on how the capabilities of their solution match up against those needs. You want to weight the scores you give for each area based on the importance to your long-term objectives. This will help ensure that you get a solution that will meet your current needs. But don't stop there. I also want you to evaluate the product roadmap of potential technology providers. You want to ensure that they have plans to integrate emerging technologies such as analytics and contract management tools. You want to make sure that if they're not there today, they'll be there in the long haul. Are they involving technologies such as artificial intelligence and robotic process automation, which will help you make better informed decisions faster? You also want to understand the layered services that are available from a potential technology provider. You just don't want to stop at what's in the box. You want to make sure they have services, including advisory services, to ensure that you get the most out of their technology and your operations. And finally, you want to pay careful attention to the technology provider themselves. Look beyond their product and their services and understand their track record for helping organizations like yours achieve the results that you're after. Do they have the financial backing that you can be confident in? Do they have the support structure that you're looking for? Have they got referenceable customers in your industry? These are the kinds of things that you want to look for in a solution. And that will be our final word. I want to thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. If you're interested in learning more about how your organization can become a high-performance procurement function, I invite you to reach out to our friends at CoreCentric. They have representatives who can explain to you how it is their technology can help you achieve optimal results. On behalf of CoreCentric, this is Mark Brousseau. I hope to speak with you all again soon.